but I'm going to start with the things I remember. Number one, I'll outline them. Number one, anti-corruption efforts. Number two is infrastructure development. Anti-corruption is he tried to bring about the Treasury single account. He established the whistleblower policy, and he prioritized prosecution of public officials. Mostly, they were the opposing figures. Now, the second one is the infrastructure development. During Buhari's time, he succeeded in building the Kaduna Rail in Abuja to Kaduna, Lagos to Ibadan Rail, and also the Itakpe-Warri Rail. In addition, also the second Niger Bridge, which the East should also appreciate and applaud him. He completed the second Niger Bridge, which has been proposed by several heads of states before. Number three, again, is agricultural initiatives. The AMCO Borrower Program, aimed at achieving food security and import substitution. Number four, in the first 2 years, Boko Haram was suppressed. So it was an early success. Later on, insecurity came, but I want to continue with the achievements. Number five is his personal integrity. Buhari is seen as a man of what? Of austerity, a man of public integrity, a man of anti-corruption, a man that does not yield corruption. And the sixth one is the electoral reform support. That was in his late tenure. He signed the Electoral Acts Amendment Bill in 2022, enabling electronic transmission of results, although there were flaws in the 2023 election where some of the results in the presidential election was not transmitted electronically due to some glitches, and also it paved the way for relatively improved transmission from one power to another. So these are part of the achievements of Buhari. Then going to the 6 flaws. Number one is insecurity worsened towards the late end of President Muhammad Buhari. Nationally, we had banditry. You can see the bumping of the Kaduna Railway. You can see the Northwest worsened in insecurity. Number two is, again, we have the economic mismanagement. There were two recessions under Buhari, 2016 and the COVID-19 era. The Naira also collapsed during Buhari. And you can see now we are having 1,600. It started worsening during Buhari's era, but later on, during this dispensation, it reflected it. Then we have the nepotism. That is number 3. People have accused President or late President Buhari of nepotism. People accuse him of only giving appointments or positions to his kinsfolks, to his men, to his tribe, which is not good for a national country and a secular country like Nigeria. Poor handling of the NSAS. That is number 4. He handled the NSAS very badly, killing some of them, arresting them. We should be in a country where we should be able to say our rights and we should be able to express our. Look at America now. There are people who are against Donald Trump. They even go on public TV and they insult him, and he only goes on Twitter and insults them back. Like now, there's one popular TV host that Donald Trump also commented, oh yes, this person.
Hello, are you with us?
I'm with you.
Okay, so, I can hear you now.
Number 5. Okay, I'm continuing the criticism. I've mentioned the success. Number 5 criticism is lack of communication and transparency. Late President Muhammad Buhari is often silent when there is a problem. Look at the fuel scarcity during the election. Look at the scarcity of the Naira also. He was just silent and things were going wrong. He was not saying anything. And silent means consent. Also repeated medical trips in the UK. This is another problem. As a medical doctor who has also practiced in the United States and Saudi Arabia, I am baffled that Nigeria has to be traveling abroad to seek for medical attention. Why didn't the president establish first-class hospital, state-of-the-art clinic for himself? Why does he have to die in London clinic? Why not in Daura, where he comes from? Why didn't he build a hospital there? The same thing with late Yaradua also, who died abroad. So why didn't they build, and they are both from Castina, why didn't they build a hospital? Now the last one is the number 6 criticism of late Buhari is the weak implementation.
Hello, doctor.
Of reforms. Many anti-corruption trials stalled unended without conviction during Buhari's era. Then also the agricultural and economic programs were poorly coordinated and they were highly politicized. it was only his people that were given these positions and benefits. So these are a summary of what I can remember of late President Mohamed Buhari. There are some good qualities and there are some criticisms. Thank you, Mr. Ruben.
Well, that's to be expected. There's no human being who is perfect, so that's understandable. But the point you were making about why did he not go to a hospital in Daura, I hope you had Femi Adesina, his former spokesperson, saying that, in fact, he probably would have died earlier if he did not go to the London clinic. In other words, he went to London where he could get the best possible treatment, and not in Nigeria.
That is not an excuse. I think Femi Adesina can do better than that. So didn't he die in the London clinic? He died in the London clinic. If he's to argue that he would have died long ago.
Okay. Achike Chude has joined us. Achike Chude, thank you very much for joining us. Well, you have observed President Buhari closely from the time he was General Buhari to his days as a democratic president. How do you think history will judge him? Will history be fair to him, or the Buhari presidency, will you, as some people who are critical of him have said, a missed opportunity? At least I can name one person. Omoyele Sowore thought that the 8 years was a waste of time for Nigerians.
History will not be too kind to him. Maybe history might not be very harsh, with him, but it will not be too harsh on him. I mean, it will not be too kind to him, especially because it's all about outcome. Regardless of what you put into a process, regardless of intention, because people tend to talk about intention, and I realize that for virtually every Nigerian political leader, when they begin to flounder somewhere along the line in the course of the administration, the next thing is that we gradually acknowledge the fact that they are not doing well, that they are doing badly, but we now say, but he has good intention. When has intention ever been able to govern a country? So there is good intention, there is policy, there is the implementation of policy, and then there is the outcome. So if the outcome, of your actions or inactions, are not, representative of the mindset of the people in terms of their expectations, we cannot say that you have done well. So what is the outcome of the Buhari administration? Now, don't forget that Buhari came in on the backdrop of the crisis that we were having, socioeconomic crisis that we were having, which we blamed Jonathan for. The insecurity in the country, which we blamed Jonathan for. Because I remember the former president, Jonathan, talking, about this, the insecurity, and the criticism had gotten to the zenith, to the peak, to the apogee. And then he said, look, I'm not a general. Maybe talking about what the expectations of the people were. And I think that maybe that was one of the reasons why the people said, well, we wanted a general. We want somebody that would deal with these people effectively, and Buhari is the person. And then Buhari was brought in. And of course, years down the line, people began to regret Jonathan's exit from power. In terms of socioeconomic issues, in terms of political issues, in terms of especially insecurity. So he, the general, was not able to better the situation. And so these are the things that remain in the minds of people. But what is critical really is, apart from all of this, the good, the bad, and the ugly of his administration, because just like you said, it's a fact of life. Nobody is perfect. So it's about the degree of failure. It's about the degree of success. So for a person to say, this person was successful as a president, it means that the degree of success would have eclipsed the degree of failure of those things that he was not able to do. And when you say it's a failure, it means that he failed, percentage of failure was far above the percentage of success. And you say, that this man, failed. So these are things you look at. So for him, the outcome is not, where the country is today. It's not what people expected when he was coming to power, when he came to power. People expected so much. Don't forget that we are told, just when he, before he came to power, the former governor of Lagos State, who also became Minister of Power, Fashola had promised on behalf of the Buhari administration that within 3 to 6 months, that we are going to have uninterrupted power supply. They did that. We are going to do this with the economy. I did not see any of these things. And even the issue of insecurity, it got worse than it was under the Jonathan administration. So these are things that are left in the minds of the people now that he died. And this unprecedented, I was unprecedented. It happened under General Sani Abacha. This celebration that somebody had died. It's absolutely un-African. It's absolutely reprehensible, and it's abominable. But perhaps that is the only way the people can respond to the crisis, to the poverty, to the frustration, to the anger, of many years of being in power, without being able to improve the life of the lives of people. Instead, it got worse. So and I keep on telling people that Nigerians want to be in a position where they want to begin to pray for their political leaders, where they want to begin to bless their political leaders, and not to curse them and not to abuse them. But they are living reality is such that it is difficult to hold a man who is in power, in good esteem when the going is not good for Nigerians. And so there are good things that have been done by Muhammadu Buhari. Absolutely. I mean, you also have to remember even the criticism that against him about anti-Southeast sentiment. But he came in and he built the second Niger Bridge. That was something that he did. So that should remain in the minds of people. That as bad as people say he was towards us, but no other person, though it was started by the Jonathan administration, no doubt about that. But he completed it. No other administration was able to do that. And then again, I think he's still left with that feeling of Nigerians, really, that he was a good man. People still had the impression, maybe somebody that was incompetent, somebody that was not able to achieve what he wanted to achieve on behalf of Nigeria and Nigerians, but that he was a good man and that he was an honest man. He was a sincere man. Perhaps it is true. But there's a place in scripture that says, show me your friends and I'll show you who you are. So you can't be a good man, or as Bongo Zikwe will put it, you can't be a virgin in a maternity ward. You cannot be a good man in the midst of bad people. If you look at what some people did under him, Haji Sirika, aviation minister, and so many other things, he was president when these things happened. And so I think he had a good intention for Nigerians. I think he wanted to be a good leader. But whether he was able to achieve that, I cannot say that he did, because the reaction by the ordinary people, by the Talakawas or the ordinary people, I think is indicative of the way they view the president in his last days.
Okay, Achike Chude, thank you. Let me go back to Dr. Yusuf. Well, both of you have tried to be balanced in your assessment, the good, the bad, but you have not touched on the ugly. Maybe the ugliness is the healthcare issue that Dr. Yusuf talked about. But Dr. Yusuf, if you were to isolate a particular quality that you think future leaders and present leaders can learn from President Buhari, what would that be?
Now, there is one statement he said in his lifetime, which everybody remembers. He said, I belong to everybody and I belong to nobody. One quality I like him for, President Muhammad Buhari, late president, is that irrespective that some people funded his election or supported him, he didn't give them preference in his election. And they were even upset during his early time. I don't want to mention names, but we all know someone who was really, really disgruntled and boasted that I funded this man, I supported him, I made him president. But he did not budge. He was principled, he worked according to his conscience, and he tried his best to work according to the Nigerian constitution. So this is one quality which we should all learn. If anyone is elected as a president, do not be biased and do not say because of that you are giving favoritism to those who made you president or who, in quotes. And we can see also what is happening in other states. Like Rivers State, you see someone who thinks he sponsored an election and because of that he wants to become the God and Almighty. No. Nigeria's constitution should be principled and Nigeria's election should be free and fair. So irrespective of your position, whether you were influenced by somebody or supported everywhere in the world, even in America, the people sponsor people to election. But that does not make you. So I like Buhari for that. He said, I belong to nobody, I belong to everybody. So that we should know that we are not influenced by one or two persons because they feel they sponsored our election or they worked with us to deliver a victory to us. So this is part of the quality I like president. There are other quotes of it again. There was one he said, but this one I don't really support him for saying it. In Germany, in Berlin, he said, my wife, when he was asked why his wife is criticizing him, I like that his wife criticized him. I like people to criticize you based on principles and policy. And he said to his to the public. He said, my wife belongs to the kitchen, to the bedroom, and the other room. I don't really support that. Women are beyond just the bedroom or kitchen or other room. Women are also technocrats. Women can also become leaders. Women are intelligent people. Now, the third quote again was when he was addressing the people from the southeast, and in quotes the IPOP, saying that they were not alive when we fought war in the 1960s, and we will teach them in a language they will understand. I don't think a democratically elected president should speak in that way or tweet in that way. That tweet is still on his handle. It has not been deleted.
Okay,
so I don't
Dr.
think that we
Yusuf.
should be. Yes.
Okay, I've heard you, but let's come back to Chude. Chude, you had Dr. Yusuf.
Yeah.
Quoting Buhari saying he didn't belong to anybody, he didn't belong to anyone. But how will you assess his handling of the ethnic and the religious question? Two major issues at the heart of the national question. How will you assess his handling of ethnicity and religion?
There are two other things I will add, but let me just respond to your question. I don't think he did it too well. People didn't have that impression that he lived up to that creed. And I think my colleague, at the other end, the doctor there had actually, even before the last comment, he had also talked about that contradiction of being one-sided. I mean, that's the impression in terms of appointments. So people who appoint in the way and manner that he did, concentrating heavily on one particular group of, one geopolitical, territory in this country, it's not somebody that is for everybody. People expected some level of balance in his appointments, and I'm not sure he was able to achieve that. Then the issue of, sentiments, religious sentiments and all that. People had, I'm not sure it has improving, but people had this impression that he was bent towards his side of the religion. But I think in practice, he did not show it. He did not show it. I remember that when the issue of Sharia came, he actually, supported Sharia to the hilt. And you will not blame him. He's a Muslim. He's a devout Muslim from what we have seen. But he said that they will do their very, very best to ensure that Sharia is implemented in the whole of Nigeria. Now, that is not a statement that you would expect from somebody like him who has been president at a particular time, knowing these religious sensibilities of this country. It's like somebody saying we will make sure that we implement, certain religious Christian tenets or even traditional whatever in all parts of the country and do it by forcing the instrumentality of the law. I'm not sure that was very good. But again, when people took him up on that, this Sharia issue, he said, look, but we were in power, under a military dictatorship, and we did not impose Sharia on the country. And that is also true. And that perhaps the dynamics, were very, very different. And then of course, the 5% to 100% statement he made at the beginning of his administration, I think he did that somewhere in Europe. Stopped the European anchor that was asking him that question. He said, how do you expect that people who did not vote for me will get what I'm going to give to people who voted for me? Of course, they are supposed to expect it, because that is the part of democracy is based on the basis of, the distinction, based on the fact that there are those who support you and those who do not support you and all that. So he had obligations to those who did not vote for him, as well as to vote to those who, voted for him. That also was not okay. And that set him apart especially from the southeast of the country. You can see that there was almost nothing that he did that made them, even look at him with some level of favorability, because they felt that this man hated them so much. They might not have, to some extent. Maybe they are misreading him, but sometimes when you make this kind of statements publicly, people take it, they run with it, and they don't forget. But beyond that, let me just say that there were two key things that he said. But one major thing that he said at the time in his administration, I think somewhere along the line, maybe somewhere, in his second term, when he made a statement, I don't know how many Nigerians took notice of that statement. He said that he wished he were about 10 years younger. Now, that's an admission. That is because the presupposition is that I'm not giving Nigeria my all, either intellectually or physically. I'm not giving Nigeria my all because I am 10 years older than I should have been. So if you are 10 years older than you should have been, then why did you not consider it important for you to run, for the country? And that is also true. I think somewhere along the line, people didn't have that impression that he was, he was bent towards his side of the religion. But again, when people took him up on that, he had obligations to those who, voted for him, as well as to those who, voted for him. And that also was not okay. And as an much older person, as the president of this country, would that not be cheating Nigeria in the process because you are not in a position to give your all and to contribute your all, to the country? So that's one, and I think that was also an indictment on him. But then the positive again is this: at the political level, we must give it to him because I am an election observer with the Nigeria Civil Society Situation Room, and we have observed elections in many parts of the country. There was something he did, and because you see, you cannot, Fela used to say, when you talk about, People's Democratic, something Revolutionary Council, or you give it a particular name, maybe the SMC. Remember when they changed the name, the Supreme Military Council, and gave it another name? Is it AFRC? Sometimes some of these names sound so good, but a name doesn't change anything because the name, the entity you're talking about remains essentially the same, even when you change the name. Where am I going? Buhari said something about election, that he wasn't going to interfere in certain elections. Now, of course, the opposition, insinuated that he was going to interfere in an election. He said he won't interfere. Now, what does that mean? Even he admitting that he will not interfere means that the president of a country, this country, has the capacity to interfere and change the course of an election. That is what we have been seeing. But in fairness to him, under him, the APC lost some elections in this country. And that speaks well of his, even though people accused him of not having the right democratic credentials. But I think he did his very best to ensure as much as possible that elections that were conducted, if the opposition was in a position to win these elections, won the elections, and even he was in a position to ensure that they interfered in a way that would be detrimental to the interests of that opposition. He did not do it. I'm not exactly sure that under the present dispensation, that this is exactly what we are seeing. So he had a mindset, that is part of his dictatorial credentials, being somebody from the military institution. I think he went out of his way to a very, very large extent to ensure, a transparency in the electoral process. Of course, like my colleague at the other end said, some of this also, these issues, these sentiments were vitiated by what happened at the Lekki during the NSAS protest and how it ended up. It didn't paint him in glorious picture.
Okay. Let me come back to you, Dr. Yusuf. You've talked about NSAS. You've talked about rising insecurity under Buhari's watch. You've also talked about the fact that he went to seek medical care in a London clinic. But I would like you to focus specifically on your sector, the health sector, in terms of health policy. You recall that under President Buhari, I think we were even told by one of the ministers that doctors could go out of the country and go and find jobs elsewhere, that we have more than enough doctors in Nigeria. Is that true? It was also under Buhari that universities were shut down for almost 2 years over industrial disputes and all that. So those two issues, how you manage labor issues, and particularly in the health sector.
Yes, these are part of the criticisms and the setbacks of President Muhammad Buhari, and his silence or his being quiet was too loud. His silence was too loud, especially in the inefficiency in the health sector in Nigeria and also in the academic sector. That was why during his 8 years tenure, we saw one of the highest rates of brain drain in the medical sector. We have many Nigerians. As I'm speaking, I worked in the US, and you see many Nigerian doctors, to the extent that, Dr. Ruben, it will look as if we have started a new school reunion in America, because I see many of my colleagues, many of my classmates, all of us are here. And why? It is because the health sector is not favorable to we Nigerians back home here in Nigeria. So I think the President Muhammad Buhari, they were really short. They had a shortcoming, a large one, in the health sector. And in the academic sector also, we also saw that, where many people were going on strike, and many people were not getting quality education. So this is a major problem we are having. In addition to this, you've said, one of the quality, because I don't just want to only talk about one side of the president. I want to talk of both sides, both the good and the bad. one style President Buhari has is that he lives it. So I don't want to blame everything on the president alone. Like I will not blame the current president or even his previous president, President Jonathan. But President Buhari has one quality. He hands over to the ministry to handle. So he handed over to the Minister of Health, handed over to the Minister of Education, but these people were inefficient. So I want to focus more on the ministers in which the president appointed during his time, but he has the power, the prerogative to sack them, to terminate them if he feels that they are inefficient. So the Minister of Health during late President Mohamed Buhari was inefficient, and that was why we're having a lot of lapses for even the president to be receiving medical treatment abroad. And he is still the Minister of Health. He should have resigned, because for him not to be able to set up a high quality healthcare, why can't they even if they want to treat the president and they need experts, why couldn't they bring those doctors to Nigeria to train Nigerian doctors or to work with Nigerian doctors to provide the best care for the president? Why did they have to take him abroad? Also in the academic sector too, the Minister of Education also was highly inefficient for him not to be able to provide either the basic requirements for us to have the high quality education. Now, let me also add this, what Mr. Achike said. You see, in the election and towards the end of President Mohamed Buhari, we all know that the president was, towards an extent, silent or neutral, which helped and strengthened democracy. We all know that the current president was not his favored candidate. Even in the primaries of their party, that was not his favored candidate. But at a point, from what a politician who is a political commentator who is close to the president himself said, and he said he is quoting that he discussed with the president. The president himself was worried if he would win the election because President Mohamed Buhari did not single-handedly mention to the public and to his in quote 12 million followers or voters who they should vote for. He was silent. So I commend the president on that aspect, but I also criticize the aspects of the health and the education. But in terms of the election, I commend him that he was relatively silent, which had some ills and some good also.
Okay, well, I'm sure Mr. Peter Obi of the Labour Party will probably not agree with you, nor would the Waziri Adamawa, former Vice President Atiku Abubakar.
Peter Obi was able to get 6 million votes. I think Waziri, Atiku, and Peter Obi, assuming they work together as a single ticket, they will have won this election. They will have won the previous election. President Mohamed Buhari, those who were even in the president's government, in the cabal, they didn't want this current president to win the election. It's all known. Everybody knows it. They didn't want him to win. So if the two of them worked together, the rest will have been history.
Okay, let me go back quickly to Chude. Well, I haven't had both of you talking about his achievement as a Civil War hero. You know, he joined the military at the age of 19, went for training in the UK, months after shot, rose to the level of a general, was in the 1st Division under General Muhammad Shua, was part of the team that won that Civil War, although General Gowon says there was no victor, no vanquished. Do you think there is a certain regard in which he may have been misunderstood? This is a man who fought along with others to keep Nigeria one.
Perhaps we are not giving our military the kind of respect and love that they have, like they do in the United States. I mean, the esteem with which their military, anybody who has fought, their veterans, and the respect that they are given is much. And you see, even in every radio program or TV programs, when they are talking to them, once they have described them as a military vets, they tell them, "Thank you for your service to the nation." And obviously, people laid their lives for this country. People made sacrifices for this country to remain one, and he was absolutely one of them. And then he fought. We don't know the nature of, how, but I want to assume because they won, so they are the victors. They were gallant in that process, and the country owes him some level of appreciation. All of them, every single one of them that fought to keep the country won. But beyond that, again, he was 19, so he didn't have much under his command. So you had the bigger boys. I'll use the word boys, the Muhammad Shuwas, I thought when I was maybe about his maybe his age mate in rank and all that, but we had the people that were ahead of them, the Muritala Mohammed, the Yaradwas and the rest. So they were younger people coming up.
Benjamin
They were
Adekunle,
younger.
Brigadier
Yeah,
Benjamin
thank you.
Adekunle.
Yes, the Black Scorpion. And they
Yes.
were coming up then. So he must not have handled any serious command at 19 years. I'm sure he didn't
No, he
have
was
much.
21. He was 21
Okay,
when returned from
good.
England. Yeah.
Okay, fine. So he was relatively young, and then when he was in the midst of the struggle. But I think there's one other aspect of his military life that some of us also forget, and that is when he was commanding either a division somewhere in the north. I can't remember then, and then we had this incursion from either Niger or Chad. In fact, that was what brought Muhammad Buhari to the limelight. He took Nigerian soldiers across the border, even in defiance of the president of Nigeria at that time, and then pursued them all the way into the hinterland of their country, and came back. And I think he was hailed a hero for having done that on behalf of Nigeria, even flouting, certain, territorial conventions and all that. But that was what he did on behalf of the country, and it's a shame that today the Nigerian army, the mighty Nigerian army, because that's the way I say look at the Nigerian army, that our travails, our problems are not, as a result of the inability of the military to conquer the present purveyors of instability in this country, but simply because the political will, from the political elites itself is not there. They are not giving them enough support to be able to achieve that. But he was able to do that, and I think that spoke volumes about his ability as a military person. And a lot of people he actually loved what he did. So obviously he was a disciplined. He was disciplined. There's no doubt about that. Even those who were in love with him at the time later fell out with him. People like Olusegun Obasanjo and so on will tell you that he was a very, very disciplined, person. And perhaps it was also part of the reason why he was removed. He and the late Tunde Diabo, because the people who removed him, his erstwhile colleagues who had also helped in that coup, Babangida Abacha Donkalbali, the coup that removed Shehu Shagari, also accused him of high-handedness and of not listening to advice from their colleagues. So I think he played his part as a military person.
Well, you remember the Umaru Diko affair. You remember Decree 2.
No, can I tell you, Ruben, Dr. Bati, let me tell you something about the Umaru Diko. We're young then. We were also students of NANS, the great, National Association of Nigerian Students. So we were radically inclined and radically disposed. So when that happened, in fact, when, the crisis between Britain and then the United and Nigeria happened as a result of the botched Umaru Diko kidnap, there was this issue. The British were not happy at all, and they carried out a series of diplomatic actions against Nigeria. Nigeria responded, and we were happy. We were happy that Nigeria was showing courage and boldness in the midst of, before the erstwhile colonial masters. We were happy. I was also happy then at that particular point in time with the attempt to kidnap Umaru Diko back to Nigeria. Like I said, we were radical. So looking at the final aspects of the law, it was not important. If this man had done so much damage to Nigeria, and the government, has the capacity to bring him to answer for his for his misbehavior, then for his financial impropriety, then it is good that the government goes ahead. So I loved Buhari for the way he stood out against the colonial masters, the former colonial masters, Britain. But again, if you now look back, you realize that that action was not proper, because we violated some international law in order to do that.
Okay, gentlemen. Well, let's take a short break. I see that other people will also be interested in this subject. Just short break, less than a minute, and then we would like to invite comments from our listeners at home and persons who have joined us via social media. We'll be right back. Let us take this short break, and if you want to be part of the conversation, you can join us on 0700-1051-1051. You can send us WhatsApp messages on 0909-916-4403. We take this short break and we'll be right back.
Most of the contracts in NDC are given out to members members of National Assembly, but you don't know about it. It's okay.
When you need unbiased information, balanced analysis, reviews, and insights on the policies and programs that concern you, listen to City Talks with Ruben Abati. Be a part of it. Call 0700 1051 1051 to lend your voice on topics and help shape our country for the better.
My name is Ruben Abachi. I will be your host on City Talks from noon to 1 p.m. every Saturday. Join me as we dissect major issues of public interest. You will be glad you did.
City Talks with Ruben Abati on your number one lifestyle station, City 1051. From noon to 1 p.m. every Saturday.
That commercial break. If you are just joining us, this is City Talks with Ruben Abati on City 1051 FM. We are reflecting on the life and times of former President Muhammadu Buhari, who passed away in London on July 13, 2025. And you can join us on 0700 1051 1051. You can also send us messages via WhatsApp 0909-916-4403. And we have as guest Dr. Arun Yusuf and Mr. Achike Chude, who have been leading the conversation today. Now, I've seen quite a number of comments. Let me quickly take those comments. The first person here, Akin Ogunlade, he says, beyond the tragic security failures, Buhari's government was hollow at its ideological core. It offered no compelling vision for national unity, growth, or justice. Instead, it oversaw the institutionalization of religious and ethnic bigotry, where favoritism became state policy, and the machinery of government skewed perilously in favor of sectional interests. Corruption, ironically the very vice he claimed to fight, flourished under his watch. Men and women under his leadership shamelessly enriched themselves with public funds, emboldened by the culture of impunity that defined the era. Agencies meant to ensure accountability were weakened and whistleblowers silenced. Now, there's also a message here from Chief Kayode Otitoju. He says, my comment is on political appointments under both Buhari and Goodluck Jonathan regimes. Apart from statutory political appointments that are constitutional, Buhari was not fair to the Southwest, just like his predecessor, Goodluck Jonathan. The SGF under Jonathan, Senator Ayim Pius Ayim, really dealt with the Yorubas to the extent that the highest federal board appointment given to Southern PDP was the chairmanship of WAEC board given to Professor Tunde Adeniran from Ekiti. I only pray and hope that Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu GCFR will not toe the vindictive and parochial lines of his two immediate predecessors as regards non-statutory board appointments. Now, Engineer Olubanwo Sunday says, to me, history is a great teacher, but people always refuse to learn from history. Living Nigerians should learn from late President Buhari. So those are the comments here, but I see that Dominic Iriata wants to make a contribution, as well as Folorunsho Dada. If we could start with Dominic Iriata. Dominic, please. Well, on the screen, his name is written as ESA Agenda Development Worldwide. So if the engineers could just allow ESAN Agenda Development Worldwide to make his contribution. I see so many hands up. Following Shodada, Bode Fadipe, Ibrahima. Can we just take whoever is ready at the moment? Ibrahima?
Good afternoon.
Okay,
Dr.
very good.
Ruben. Good afternoon, Dr. Ruben.
Okay.
Well,
That's Dominic.
let me. Yes, please.
Okay,
Yes,
that's
please.
Dominic Kiriata. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good afternoon.
Yeah. Thanks.
And what we say in summary, because of time, I will be looking at it that Buhari have taken us backward in retrospect for 75 years. For us to cover it as a Nigeria, it will take us another 75 years. Yes, there are few things that he did that if you put them on a scale, you wouldn't mention them. First of all, let me start from low to unknown. What are the low? That when he was campaigning, he said, I will not create office of first lady. That was laudable enough. And that was the only thing that makes me to like him. And I thought he would be able to execute that. On the contrary, no sooner than he made that statement during his tenure in the office, he wasn't seeing that office become a proper leakage. That's one. Two, this same man, when he came in for the first time, we brought issue of something like that, war against indiscipline. And I thought we could be able to use that, but Idiagbon was the driver of that. That is the good aspect of it. But when you now begin to juxtapose it with all he has caused to us, the pain, even we in London, let me tell you where I felt it directly here. One, NIA, where he put Issa Patami, let's mention them especially. Me and my wife and other of my peers pay hard currency to ensure that we were able to get that. Whereas back in Nigeria, nothing like that happened. That money that was collected across the globe, where is it? Where is it? Then two, when Jonathan left, before he came into office, he had not with people like Obama and John Kerry, if possible Joe Biden, who came while a sitting head of state was sitting. Then they went to Dara and placed a flag of America shoulder to shoulder with this man. That is the beginning of the trying to vocalize the Nigerian government. Then while he was campaigning, we were seeing an aggressive campaign where gun was being held at the center of Kano, and nobody remembers that anymore. No sooner that he did that, you now begin to see unscrupulous and overambitious people in the society begin to carry gun without limitation. Again, when you see this same man, he said he owns nobody, nobody's own him. I can't quote the illustration perfectly. No sooner than he said that, then you now begin to see he practiced sectionalization of government. How did he do that? He came with lorries to the southern part of Nigeria that were predominantly Christian. He took the day guns that these guys used to go for hunting and all those things. He packed them with lorry to unknown destination. No sooner than he did that, he brought external invaders and internal into our nation to begin to tear apart our people. Okay. And this is what
Dominic, thank you. We have a long list of persons who also want to intervene.
Sorry, thanks.
Yes, thank you very much. Let's listen to Mr. Folorunsho Dada. Is Mr. Dada there? If it's not, maybe we'll take...
Hello, I'm here. Yeah, I've just been enabled to talk now. Good afternoon, Mr. Ruben. Yes, just one quick one. In life, Buhari was very, very prominent. And he's still prominent even in death. That speaks volumes. It's not enough for one to pass through this world, be known while alive and not celebrated when gone. So my position is already clearly that he is, for now, perhaps the most discussed president Nigeria ever had. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Well, that was brief and to the point. Can we have Ehi Brahima, please? Ehi Foxy Brahima.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Abati and all our guest speakers. I think they made out the point clearly. And if we discuss our late president, Muhammadu Buhari, we will not stop. The whole day will be spent. But overall, I think whether in life or in death, Muhammadu Buhari will be remembered for so many reasons. This is a man who had the opportunity twice, first as military president or military ruler, and now later as civilian president, to transform Nigeria. Not many people are that lucky, himself and former President Olusegun Obasanjo. But to summarize, I think what we're looking at today is the good, the bad, and the ugly of our former leader. May his soul continue to rest in peace. But number one, I think the good things have been said, and I think I want to agree with the speakers. Number one, it never really interfered in the electoral process, and I think that was a good thing, where opposition parties win elections. That is true. But we had so many ministers who underperformed. They never fired them, as Achike, said. That was a huge minus. I could mention some of the ministers, but I think we should just move on. In terms of Human Capital Development Index, how we measure the quality of life and how well a country is doing. We usually will focus on healthcare and the education sector. I think they scored below par. It was very poor. Maybe that is why our leaders keep, embarking on medical tourism. I think it's a shame that we cannot fix our hospital. I don't know why they enjoy going to foreign hospitals. It's something we need to discuss and agree that it has to stop. Once you're a public officer, use our facilities here. I mean, I don't know. Look at the budget, we have every year for the different, sectors of the economy. Please, I'm begging, all our leaders should stop embarking on medical tourism. Look at the front page of today's Punch newspaper. The London clinic where our late president died, it costs over £300,000 daily, to receive treatment there. Now, let us look at economic issues, insecurity. I think that was truly challenging for our late president. But overall, I would say his taciturn nature was taken advantage of. As a good man, yes, he cared for poor people. He didn't want people to really suffer. Maybe that was why he refused to remove the fuel subsidy or electricity subsidy. And we can continue to discuss Mr. President, our late president here. But I think his hot followership also says something for him, and especially in the North. He tried to the presidential election 3 times and failed. And I think he almost gave up before that coalition was formed between ACN, TPC, and the other legacy parties. And that was how he became president, in 2015. Overall, I would just say that Nigeria deserves better from our leaders, including our late president. 8 years is a long time to transform a country, at least in one sector. But I think we didn't achieve that goal. So let Nigerians forgive him. I think his family members have asked for forgiveness, and I think we should forgive our late president. He had his own good sides. He was kind-hearted. He cared for the poor, and I'm sure he also wanted a better Nigeria. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, can we quickly have Dr. Chizia's intervention as we begin to wrap up? After Dr. Chizia, then Bode Fadipe, and then we'll quickly round up this conversation. Dr. Chizia, please.
Yeah, okay. Ruben, thank you very much. I joined late. But anyway, I have just thought, when I saw the topic, I thought I should just make 1 or 2 contributions. I think Buhari as a person, he's pattern, he's not materialistic, and probably he's not corrupt as a person. But of course, the jury is still out. But if everyone around you is corrupt, and you're not corrupt as a person, then there are some issues about that. He's 10. But then he's extremely sexual. In the sense he's a religious bigot. Let's call it spade by his name. And if you look at insecurity in the land, the word out there is that he promoted it. So he promoted it for the sake of elections, and he was afraid he was going to win the elections, and was desperate to win the elections, and that happened. So it word out there himself, Erofai, they promoted that. So I think that we'll take that on board. In terms of his capacity, he's lacking in capacity. So He just occupied the position, and there was little or no governance. The people around him, they treated unbelievable extent of corruption. He just couldn't. He didn't even. He was oblivious of what was happening. Money was printed under him. Sitting governor of central bank contested an election of the president while still occupying that office. And so when you look at him, look at the people he's appointed as ministers, look at his first coming, the time it took him to appoint ministers, almost 6 months, and so on and so forth. He worsened the conditions in this country. Thank you.
Okay, quickly, Bode Fadipe, and then we go back to our panelists. Thank you, Dr. Chizia.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I won't want to repeat what everyone has said. I'll just take 1 or 2 points. One, I think we must give him credit for the fact that he recognized MKO Abiola, although he did not go the whole hog in that area. But apart from that, I frankly believe that Buhari represented a complete opposite of everything that he said about himself. The so-called cult followership in the north, who did the assessment, or those who followed him, what was their knowledge of the person that they followed? Some of us were as old as 20 years when he came in 1984, and we gave credit for the war against indiscipline. But look at what he did to the UPN governors and Dr. Ali, and then he now came back to say, I'm for no one, I'm for everyone. Yet he did the direct opposite. Some people said, he gave ministers room to do as much as they wanted to do. But the truth of the matter is that he did not micromanage. And I think I remember Babatunde Fashola, SCN, saying that. But the truth of the matter is that he lacked the supervisory capacity. He didn't supervise them. So many of them did what they wanted to do. Just like the last speaker said, for the first time in my life in Nigeria, a sitting CBN governor had the temerity to contest election, and he wanted to go to the federal high. In fact, he went to the federal high court to seek interpretation by originating summons to know whether he could contest in this country. I mean, for God's sake. And we had a president who was seeing him almost every day, and he couldn't reprimand him. He had cars all over the place. They couldn't ask him where he got money to get those cars that he wanted to use for election. So for me, unfortunately, they say we don't speak ill of the dead. No, we are not speaking ill of the dead. We're only saying the truth. I just pray that this country will get the right. Kindness is not a requirement in governance. Good naturedness is not a requirement in governance. What is required is that you are able to turn the country around. We all had a lot of hopes. When Buhari was to come in, I met a medical doctor in Benin, one Professor Gbemudi, and he said, don't forget about Buhari. I said, no, we will go for Buhari, only to turn out to be disappointed completely. Well, may God have mercy on it and continue to keep Nigeria. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Bode Fadipe. Akin Ogunlade sent another message, and he seems to agree with you. He says, let's stop being politically correct. The Buhari regime was an unmitigated disaster. Simple. But Emmanuel doesn't seem to agree. Emmanuel says, good afternoon, Dr. Abati. It is often said that our leaders are the problem of Nigeria. But let's pause and think critically. Before he became president, he wasn't the problem. And when he eventually left office, will the next leader become the new problem? This cycle of blame has become all too familiar. Each leader is blamed, removed, and replaced, only for the next one to become the next enemy. The truth, the real problem is deeper than any one individual. Nigeria's real problem is Nigeria itself. Nobody is perfect. See Baba, the man of many colors. Quite a long list of comments here. But let me just take this one too. From Adegboyega Adedeji. Adegboyega Adedeji says, truth be told, the passing away of President Buhari is a big blow to the ruling party, APC, and to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's bid for re-election in 2027. His absence will create a power vacuum, political shift, reshape, realignment, and new alliances in the northern political landscape, especially with the emergence of the new coalition party, ADC. President Buhari's influence will be missed. Those who rise to power or became minister, governors, and so on through the influence and endorsement of the late President Buhari, we have to brace up, merge with a strong political party, that is strong man, and be ready for a big challenge ahead. Adegboyega Adeliji. Let me pause there and come back to our guests for your general reaction to the various interventions. Let me start with you this time, Achike Chude.
Well, they say Vox Populi. They say Vox Populi, Vox Dei. The people have spoken. They have passed their verdicts. You know, at the end of the day, you know, what happens is the court of public opinion. Even the courts themselves, the judiciary can do their own part, do whatever they have to do, make, you know, certain rulings and certain judgments and all that. But it's the people that would also have their say, you know, their own opinion with regards to even the validity of the statement, you know, of the, you know, pronouncement by the judge. Yes, it's going to stand because we're in a society of lawful people, you know, but then sometimes the people are not generally enamored by, you know, some of the things that are coming out from the body politics of this country. Somebody said yes that was refuting the fact that leadership might not be the problem with the country. It's not just leadership, Buhari as a person. Leadership is a collective. You know, and don't forget that the late Sani Abacha had said at a time in his administration, in the course of his administration, that the problem with Nigeria is the elites. Okonjo-Iweala, you know, also had cause to also make that statement. There's something wrong with the political elites in this country. They have never been able to form that consensus that is needed, that elitist consensus that is needed to say, look, we need to move this country forward. Everybody is still individualistic, you know, and then of course collective when they want to, you know, loot the resources of the country. But for you to change a country, it stems from leadership. And I would just say that I keep on talking about that there are elements of national power, those things that are responsible for the greatness of nations. Of the most important of the elements, it is political leadership. It is political leadership that changed Singapore from what Singapore was at a particular point in time. It is leadership that changed China. China used to be a backward country many years back. It is political leadership that changed the course of the Middle East from a desert to what it is, to the near paradise that it is today. So leadership is key, and we can never downplay it. So there has to be there's a bigger burden of responsibility on the political leadership. That's why, after all, that's why they're giving security, that all-round security. That's why everything they get is practically free. Why do they give it to them? Just so that the only thing, responsibility they have is to provide for the welfare of the people and the security of the people, as provided by the constitution of this country. This is what they should do. You know, and that is what's expected of them.
Well, Dr. Yusuf, I'm back to you. Your reaction to the various interventions.
Yes, everybody has spoken and everybody has a point. You see, public opinion is the most important opinion. Even if a verdict is given, if people's opinion or perception about it is not what the court gives, there is still an outcry, or there is still a perception that there is a wrong judgment. And I'll give us two examples. Look at the time of Yar'Adua. Even when he was alleged to have won the national presidential election, he himself said, I know that this election that brought me to power was flawed, and he had to bring up the electoral reform. Also, this current presidency, even though that he has won, there is still a massive opinion which is bringing about a public opinion. The same thing with late President Muhammad Buhari. Yes, he won. There was a wide jubilation in the first tenure, but his governance for the 8 years was marred with multiple speculations, with nepotism, tribalism, some even claims religious, even if they are alleged. And there were also some good sides, as I've said, in addition to some other sides. But what I can say is that he is late and he is gone. But this is a lesson to those who are alive, that we should all do something which is just, which is fair, and which is credible, because one day all of us will also become subjects of history. We'll all be talked about, will become a story, just as we are talking about late President Muhammad Buhari. People will talk about us. So let us try our best to do the best, to be just in what we do. We should avoid nepotism. We should avoid religious sentiments, fanaticism. We should try to rule or do whatever we have to do in a just manner. It's not easy to rule Nigeria. Nigeria is metropolitan. Nigeria is very vast with variety of different people, different religion, different ethnicity, different culture, different perception. Nigeria is one of the most complex countries to. It's not a uniform or a homogeneous nation. So it's not easy to rule Nigeria. I must say that. People who think it's easy, if they are given an opportunity to just be a counselor of a ward, they will see how difficult it is to rule. Even those who are married now, to rule your family is not easy. Your children will always complain. Your wife will complain. Your neighbor will complain. Your parents. So it's not easy, let alone of ruling the whole country. But let us just try to make sure that we try our best to be just, especially those who are living now. President, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. As we bring this to a close, this is a statement from Abiola from Ikotun. He says, a whole lot was expected of our late President Buhari, and unfortunately, little was got from him and his administration. Nigerians expected that with his integrity and uprightness, so to speak, as he emphasized during his campaign for the office, it was expected that he would be fair in his appointments, which ended up being lopsided. An ethnic bigot, so that under him, his Fulani kinsmen came to prominence in the country, so that he was against ranching for the herdsmen to the extent that he supported and preached open grazing to state governors. He grew seriously in virtually all his economic policies that impacted Nigerians very negatively. This is just to mention a few of the many things he got wrong in his administration. I hope that the present administration will realize that Nigerians are paying rapt attention to all their actions and inactions today to pay them back in their own coin at the given opportunity. Thanks. Abiola from Ikotun. Well, on that note, gentlemen, I would like to thank you very much. You all agree with me that this has been a very interesting discussion. And thank you, Dr. Arun Yusuf of the Love for Health organization. And thank you, Achike Chude, National Secretary of the Nigerian Union of Journalists and Civil Society Advocate. And thank you to all our listeners, callers, and everyone who joined us online. If you missed today's show, you can catch the full episode on our YouTube channel, City 1051. And don't forget to subscribe, share, and leave your comments in the comment section. Join us again next week at 12 noon for another exciting edition of City Talks with Ruben Abate. I'm Ruben Abate, and this episode was produced by Resu Kiche, Oluwaseun Adetutun, Oluwatobiloba Samson, and Abiodun Odonton. The executive producer is Adedoja Allen. Good afternoon once again. Thank you. Bye for now. Have a great weekend.
Most of the contracts in NDDC are given out to members of National Assembly, but you don't know about it. It's okay.
When you need unbiased information, balanced